Hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm really sorry I can't be there with you this afternoon. Hopefully I should be back in September. I'm on some funny pills at the moment which lower my immune system, so I'm not coming back in until I finish those tablets. Okay, so what I thought I'd do today is just introduce you and welcome you back. Hopefully you've been okay over the past few months. Very different and unsettling times, obviously. Hopefully we're going to try and get ourselves back into the swing of things with graphics. First thing I'd like to say is don't worry. I know some of you have done a little, some of you have done a lot, some of you haven't even thought about graphics, some of you have done loads of things. So I just wanted to say don't worry, regardless of where you're at the moment. Let's just make a start on what we've got. And let's go where we're going to go from what we've got so far. And let's reintroduce where we should be at. Let's have a think about our ideas. Let's talk a little bit about the next few stages. So for instance, we might look at some of the development and maybe some of the additional activities which I put on the Google Classroom. And we'll try and have a look at some deadlines, but don't worry too much about that. So currently we're in June. We generally, if things had obviously been going the way we wanted them to be going, to be thinking about a deadline of Christmas for our major project. Now, one thing which we did do differently with you guys was we decided that we'd only go for one major project and some additional work. So that does put you at a little bit of an advantage. In previous years, we've asked for two major projects. So don't worry too much now about that. We've got one project well underway, and with some of those additional projects or items, which aren't, they're just one-offs really. Hopefully we'll get a good portfolio, and I still really want to stick with the Christmas deadline. I don't know anything more than you do in terms of whether they're going to adjust the amount of work that's expected on the course, whether they're going to put back the exams. I don't know anything about that. So at the moment, we're just going to be going along the similar lines that nothing has really changed. We just want to try and get into the crux of things. So we'll start off with ideas. At the moment, you've been working on your ideas, especially just before we broke up for lockdown. You were thinking about ideas, and generally you had probably 4 ideas. Okay, idea 1, idea 2, idea 3, and idea 4. Okay, some of you have been emailing me over the lockdown about those 4 ideas and whereabouts you're at with them. Okay, most of you were looking in terms of backgrounds. You were looking at main image. Some of you were looking at text and typography. Some of you may have been looking at patterns or nets, which is the shape of the box, which I know some of you are looking at doing some boxes and packaging. You may also have had logos. You may also have had a number of different things there. So in each of those 4 ideas, you want to have probably, I would say, 2 double pages, okay, for each of those ideas. You may only have 3 ideas. That's fine. Don't worry if you've not got 4. You can do 4, but don't worry. So in total, we should be looking between 6 to 8 double pages, okay, for this ideas section. All right, based on what your theme or your project is. Okay, so for each of those ideas, we're looking at you looking at experimenting with those ideas. So we're looking at different materials. So for each idea, you want to be doing some drawing. Okay, that's the first thing, obviously. You want to be looking at doing maybe some digital if you can, or if you have access to it. Maybe you should be doing some painting. You could also include things like printmaking. You could include things like paint or collage, etc. Okay, so the more of those things you can do for each of those elements, the better your project is going to be, the more rich your project is going to be, and the more marks you're going to get, okay, which is obviously going to be important. So that's the ideas section, okay? That's where most of you are currently working. The next stage is development, okay? And I'll be talking a little bit about development in the next section, okay? We're then going to be looking at some of the additional activities which I put onto the Google Classroom, and then we'll be looking at some of the deadlines, okay? So the next thing I want to talk about is development. So before we get on to some of the development, here is a good example of someone's work that they've done in the past, okay? So here are their ideas pages, okay? This is a previous student. So their project, their first one there is about their ideas. So this is idea 1, okay? This is idea 2, okay? Idea 3 and idea 4. And their titles are Love Hearts, Flowers, Balls and Spirals, okay? Their project was about designing some packaging and a logo for a sweet company called Lovely Licorice, okay? And these were the things they wanted to have on them, okay? So as you can see there, if we look into this one, they have done some painting, they've done some collage, they've done some spray painting, they've done some painting, they've done some drawing, and they've explained their ideas as they've gone through, okay? There we go, that's one double page. You can see the spirals there for the sketchbook. So that's 2 double pages. There we go, there's some drawing, and they've just done a little bit of an explanation now. I chose one of my ideas as a ball because it can be manipulated into looking like a licorice swirl, which is what they want, okay? So there you can see someone's ideas. They've just explained it, maybe just one simple paragraph there for each of their areas, okay? That's going to be important. Doesn't need to be very much writing, just a little bit, just to give ourselves a bit of an idea about where you're going. So for the development, this is one of the things which is difficult to explain unless really I'm there with your project, okay? So this student has developed their ideas into a more refined piece of work. When we talk about refinement, we talk about development, they're very, very similar sorts of things. Okay, so what this student has started to do is they started to take their ideas and make them better. They've looked back at their artists, they've looked back at the materials, and they've started to bring together the best bits. They've discarded some of the others, and they've started to show how they're developing their logo and how they're developing their package into something better. Okay, every time that you do a bit of development, you make it better, right? You make the work better, you improve it, you add to it, you change the colours, you change the experimentation, you mash together 2 different artist styles, you add text, you develop it further by changing the colours around, bringing in new materials, etc. And as you're doing it, you're describing it, okay? So this student has actually done another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages on their development, okay? And they've done some more, even so 10. So they've actually developed it further before they've gone into bringing it all together, all right, a bit later on until their final piece, okay? And their evaluation. So this stage that you're currently at is really a very important part because you're starting to get closer to the final piece. You're getting closer to where you want your project to go, okay? You're starting to get closer to how you want it to look. So for those of you who are doing posters, those of you doing packaging design, you can start to really make the best bits of your ideas come together. There'll be some of your ideas which you really don't like, and you don't have to go with those ideas. It's about taking the best ones and making them better, adding to them, refining them, developing them into your major ideas, okay, your major way forward. So that's really about that. I've made a worksheet which I'm going to talk about with you now about development, which I will give you a copy of, and I'll also put it on the Google Classroom. Okay, so this PowerPoint is about what is development in graphics, okay? So ways to show development. This comes after your ideas, obviously. So recreate an image with a more professional finish. Change the colours. Change the method and materials used. Change the arrangement of the objects. Use negative space by showing more or less background. Change the height, angle and viewpoint of your image. Crop the composition to focus on a small section. Try different backgrounds. Think about meanings. What are you trying to say? Consider adding text or message to your work. Okay? So development is basically developing your best ideas into a possible final piece. You can develop some of your ideas, one of your ideas, or combine together your two best ideas. Don't worry if your ideas aren't perfect at this stage. You can refine them later in your final plans. So here's someone's ideas. One of their ideas was based on palm trees. And as you can see, they've done some developed work here and they've added some text. They've added some texture to the trees. They've gone from this set of palm trees into this one where there is some different patterns in the backgrounds. And as you can see, they've explained themselves as they've gone through it. Okay, so here's some more development here. They've used some of their figures and some of their spray pattern backgrounds. They've used some of the notation pages. They've done some elements here. So here were some of their original ideas and they've used those in this section. So they've added some characters to the stem of the stave of the music notes. They've added some of their characters and they've put them onto some of that papered background. Okay, so they've really thought about how they're going to start to develop that work further. All right, I'll put this PowerPoint onto the Google Classroom for you to look in a bit of detail. Okay, so really you want to use this to help you as you go through your work into the development stage. Each of you, this is going to be different, okay? And really, I can't talk generally about it as much as I have, because really for each of you, each of your ideas are going to be quite different from one another. So we don't really want to be talking too generally around it because each of you are going to be doing something slightly different with each of your bits of work. But you'll know what your best ideas are and what the ideas you've been doing aren't very good. So you know the ones you're going to discard, I expect, and the ones you definitely know that you want to go forward with. It's obviously a little bit difficult if you've got all of your ideas and you want to continue on with them all. You can't really do that. And neither is a really good way forward. I've seen some projects where people can't make decisions and they've taken all four of their ideas and they've mashed them together and it's made a sort of mishmash of all the stuff, and generally a big bag load of all the best bits of your project generally doesn't really work that well. Okay, a best of isn't really generally the best way to go. Okay, so I next wanted to talk about some of the additional activities which I discussed on the classroom over the lockdown. Hopefully you saw some of that, but if not, I'll talk you through that now. So some of the additional activities basically were, you've got a portfolio with your one major project in. The exam board want to have one sustained project as well as some additional other work. Okay, some supplementary material. So what I thought about doing was not more projects, but one-offs that you could do to go forward with as well as your portfolio. Okay, so these might go in the back of your sketchbook as some one-off activities. I suggested a few of them which would go along with it. These will count towards your GCSE grade, okay? So they're not things that I would like you to do if possible. They will need to be done at some point, okay? So I've said I would go for at least 5 of them, okay? You could do them all if you like. An initial design sketch and some writing explaining your finished design would be an advantage. So you don't need to do all of the artist material, you don't need to do ideas, you just need to have maybe a few sketches and the final piece, okay? So, for instance, I've suggested an illustration for a magazine article of your choice, present the work next to the original article, a drinks label, a new wine label, a label for a new can of soup. A logo for a new company, for example, some sportswear, a local or a family business. A festival wristband design. a poster for an upcoming music gig or band of your choice, a series of characters for a new children's show to be shown on Cartoon Network, a book cover to update a famous classic novel, a design for a series of playing cards showing possible designs for the King, Queen and Jack, a film festival poster, a magazine cover of your choice, a new font showing a set of example letter characters. So what I'll do is I'll put that into a sheet and I'll put it onto the Google Classroom. I've already put that development page on there, that support with development, which I was just talking about. So I'll add this in here as well, okay, under additional activities with a list of them for you to do. So that should make it a little bit clearer, okay. As I said, those are things which I think would be a good starting point. If you've got any other ones that you want to do, that's fine. I would say maybe 5 of them would be a good way forward. So we've talked about development and we've talked about some of the additional activities. Deadlines, obviously the next thing, okay? We are currently in June. We've got July, August, September, October, November, December. Generally, I look for portfolio hand-ins to come in around December. So that's around about 7 months' time, okay? Six months' time, okay? Because obviously we're at the end of June, so June's really a write-off, okay? If you come back in September and we're no further forward than where we are at with our ideas, we're going to have a lot to do, okay? So we really do need to get underway with these ideas, and ideally I would suggest coming back in September, all ideas complete, okay? So we can look at doing development, refinement, okay, final pieces, and then in the background, additional activities, okay, as you're going through, all right? So between now and September, I want you to be looking at this, okay, your ideas, okay, making sure that's done, and also looking maybe at some of these additional activities. If you do this and this, then the next stage really is looking at that development, okay? So have a look at the Google Classroom for that. If you need any materials, if you need any bits and pieces to help you along with this work, then try to see if you can ask Miss for some of those materials today, or email me and we'll try and get them to you. If you haven't taken your sketchbook home, that is obviously a big do as you possibly can. If you haven't got access to digital technology, that is fine. You can see the majority of what I showed you just then wasn't digital, it was hand done stuff, okay? If you just do all your bits and pieces on paper and then you come back in September, then you start to mount them up, fine, okay? Don't worry about mounting it all up if that's a worry for you, all right? If you can't type it, handwriting is perfectly fine as long as it's legible, okay? You can probably get most of this done on bits of paper and then think about adding them in later on, okay? If you're really under the cosh about trying to get this stuff done and you're finding it difficult to do at home, try your very best to set yourself aside somewhere, sometime, some point in the week where you can do some of this work, okay? Unlike the rest of the projects in school, the rest of the curriculum, this is very much coursework based. So you have to really make sure that you're getting this stuff done in the background. As I said, I have no idea how the government are going to make up for the work and the time we've missed. Okay, whether they're going to look at extending any deadlines, pushing the exam projects back, I don't know. Okay, but generally what happens is once we get to December, then the next thing is we'd be looking at getting the exam papers in January. Okay, January the 1st, that's when we get them. Okay, and then exam papers go through to around about April, May, and that's when the exams are. Okay, obviously we didn't have any exams this year. Whether they push those back to June, July, don't know. Could be. Could still stick with this. I don't have much of a say in any of those things, unfortunately. But we'll just have to see what happens and where we go next. Any questions at all, please direct them to me. You can talk to Miss Taylor. You can talk to Mrs. Hayden. You can talk to me over email. The worst thing you can do is suffer in silence and be sat at home not knowing what to do. Okay, that's the worst thing that can happen. You must ask me if there is a problem, if there are any issues, or if there's anything I can do to help you. That is my job. That's the thing I should be doing. You guys now are my priority. Okay, the next year's year 11, you are the priority. That you are the ones we want to make sure you get the best possible outcomes you can. Okay. Anyway, I will see what I can do to help. If there are any things you want me to do, as I said, please email me. Have a good afternoon. I shall see you later on. Well done. Thanks very much.